All right, so remember we said nitrogen is toxic. And when we had talked earlier this semester, we had talked about cellular respiration last semester in A&P 1. We talked about cellular respiration, and we had talked about how glucose is, split in half, and then you chop off individual carbons. And then after we had gone through that whole process, we said, oh, it's not just sugars that can be used in this way. We said proteins and fats can also be used as energy. Now, when we talked about proteins, we had said, what are proteins made up of? They're made up of chains of amino acids. And every single amino acid in a protein has a nitrogen. So there's lots of nitrogen. When we talk about the use of cellular respiration of proteins, using proteins as a source of energy, the very first step is going to be to remove this nitrogen. Now, that nitrogen, if it's left to its own devices, is going to form ammonia. And if you've ever smelled an ammonia detergent, you know that isn't good for you. And it isn't. It's toxic, highly toxic. So what happens, again, from A&P 1, we had talked about a cycle called the ornithine cycle. And we had said this is the cycle that occurs to convert this very toxic ammonia into a less toxic product called urea. And so urea is one of the products that is filtered and is allowed to leave in the filtrate as part of the urine. We have another source of nitrogen, though. Nucleic acids also contain nitrogen. They contain nitrogen-containing bases. And so as they are broken down, we have nitrogen from them as well. Now, their nitrogen, though, is not found in the urea. It's found in another product that is a component of urine, which is uric acid. Uric acid is a solid, and so you have uric acid crystals that are released in the urine. Just another kind of an interesting observation has to do with birds and bird poop. Who knew I'd be talking about that? But bird poop, so if you ever think about bird poop that you see on your car, it has this darker color and then white. Well, it ends up that birds, rather than producing urea, they produce mostly uric acid. And that white material that's seen in the bird poop, that is the nitrogen waste from metabolism. So we don't produce near as much of it because with us, it's only from the breakdown of the nucleic acids. Now we have some tests that are done to determine functionality of your kidneys, and one of them has to do with is something called an inulin test, and so this is slide number 10. And so we talk about tests used to study renal clearance. And that's just a fancy way of saying how well are your kidneys functioning. So you can put an IV or introduce into someone's blood inulin, and inulin is filtered but not reabsorbed or secreted. So the amount of inulin that is found in the urine is a measure relative to the amount that's been introduced into the blood. That's a way of measuring filtration. We have something else, creatine. So remember we've talked about creatine phosphate, and so creatine is present at a constant rate in your blood, and it is also it's a measure of the glomerular filtration rate, so you should be releasing creatine at a normal rate as part of a urine analysis study. Now, the third test involves something called para-aminohippuric acid, the PAH test. Now, this differs from inulin in the fact that it is both filtered and secreted. So by using combinations of these tests, you can get at something sort of functionality of what's going on in the urinary system with regards to your kidneys, kidney function, clearance. All right.